Hello there, and welcome back to another Cloud with Chris weekly vlog. You're with me, Chris Reddington, and here we talk about all things cloud. Now, thank you again for joining. We've got a few things to update on from the last week, a view on what's coming up over the next week and coming weeks, and also some Azure news updates and Azure DevOps updates as well. So we're going to waste no time, and we are going to go ahead and jump straight into things here. So firstly, hope you're all keeping safe and well, of course. And yeah, it's looking like hopefully we're going to see the start of some normality resuming. Hopefully we've got another announcement here in the UK tomorrow, so hopefully there'll be some good news for us all, because I think the last few months again have been a bit hard, have been a bit strange, especially given it's been winter, so you know there's not as much of a incentive, let's say, for people to go outside and meet with each other, so normality can only be a good thing. So let's first start off by looking at the last week here. So first off, you can see that cloudwithchris.com has changed. You may have seen already, you may have heard on one of the previous shows, I've been working on a little bit of a rebrand and working on, I guess, the layout and the structure, etc. And I'm happy to say the minimum viable product, the first iteration, is now out there. So if you're listening in, I'll just kind of do a quick description, but of course if you're watching the video you can of course see what's going on here, but everything is now on the Cloud with Chris brand. We've made it nice and easy to see some of the sessions and content that is coming up, a bit of a showcase on the latest episode, for example, and then a nice feed or a stream of information in terms of what is the latest and greatest in terms of whether it's episodes or whether it's blogs, for example. All of it is front and center there for you. So you can of course go and see the individual content as well on the episode pages or the blog page as well, if you just focus on one or the other and that's what you care about. So that's all there for you, and a bit of a description about me and the show, etc. in there as well. Now, in terms of what's happened over the last week, first off, we of course had the weekly vlog from last week, number 7. We then had a blog post as well as a new episode, a new pattern there from the Architecting the Cloud One Pattern at a Time series. So a quick view of those, I guess, here. First off, if we just take a look at last week's weekly vlog, which was number 7, this week being number 8, so 2 months of vlogging now, that's flown by. The content itself, you can go and take a look at that if you're interested, of course, but the thing I wanted to just go and showcase here for a moment is the new player that I've got on the website. So you'll see that there is this new player. Again, if you're not watching the video, I'll do a quick description. Rather than being just a player, it's now integrated with a transcript. So I mentioned, I think last week, I'm using a service called Podscribe. I'm subscribed to that now. And what they do is, once you've released your podcasts, within a certain time window, they go ahead and transcribe your episodes, mostly using AI. There are approaches where you can get some human intervention into that as well. But to be honest, it's pretty good, actually. I'm quite impressed with what I'm seeing so far. What I can do in this player is I can go ahead and just click play. And what you'll see is, as the speaker is actually talking there, the words are lighting up on the screen, so it's actually, you know, reading you the content as well as you're going there, and that's great. But what you can also do is you can click anywhere in the transcript, all of the words are hyperlinked, and they'll take you to the exact point in the transcript there that you are wanting to listen to. So it's really nice from an accessibility perspective, actually, I find. So really pleased about that one, actually, and looking forward to people using that. One thing that I do just want to go and show here, by the way, is this little edit icon, this little pencil above the transcript. So what that means is you can go ahead and actually help me as well. So I'm going to obviously try and do what I can. If I spot errors, I'll go ahead, correct them, and make sure I do that for you. But if you do like to go ahead and listen to the audio, go ahead to take a look at cloudwithchris.com whilst you're listening to that, because what you can do is, as you're listening, you might be reading along. Maybe you prefer to read instead. What you can do is you can go ahead and help me correct those, that edit option is available to everyone. So it's a bit like a crowdsourced way of being able to keep the transcripts up to date there. So this is something that I'd love to try and keep on top of, and I'd love your help doing that. So if you're listening in and you do like to have a bit of a read and listen as you're doing that, feel free to go and take a look at that option. That would be super, super helpful. Now, I did release another blog post later on in the week as well, and this one was a little different actually. So this one was, if you've been watching some of the episodes where I've been a guest on other shows, for example, you'll know that I am moving on from my current team, FastTrack for Azure. It's a tough decision, but it's the right decision for me to continue growing and focusing on the next challenge. And I was doing a bit of reflecting over all of the things that I've been involved with, because it's really been the past 4 years of my career at Microsoft. And back when I joined, we were this very small startup team. I was employee number 9 globally. I was actually the first employee outside of the United States, so the first international hire. And looking back, it gives me very fond memories of everything that we did to shape it into the organization that it's been today. And I think it's been a great challenge, it's been a great set of opportunities, but now it's time for me to move on to my next set of opportunities. So as of the time this recording goes out, I will be a cloud solution architect in the UK customer success unit. So I'll be focusing on some UK customers, building deeper relationships with them, also working in the community as well, and really helping them be successful. So my particular focus from a customer perspective will be the manufacturing and resources industry, so a particularly interesting industry as well to go and work in. So really looking forward to that, really looking forward to the new challenge. But a big thank you to my old team, not just for the opportunities of last year, but for being like my work family. I think there's never an easy time to say goodbye, and with all the messages and things that have been coming in, it does make it a challenge, but like I say, right decision. And I hope that everyone stays in touch as well. And one final thing is just a big thank you to my team as well, because they have given me a couple of gifts. So the shirt that I'm wearing right here is Star Wars themed. You can probably see by the X-Wing, over here. And Lore has it that apparently I'm a big Star Wars fan, as you may have noticed with the lightsaber mounted on the wall now behind me. And as well as that, they got me this as well. I'm really pleased with this. A nice sign that I can go ahead and put up somewhere on the wall behind me as well, with my Cloud with Chris logo. So both really thoughtful gifts, means a lot to me. So again, thank you very much, not just for the gifts, but the past few years that I've worked with you all as well. Keep in touch. So, and then finally then, in terms of last week, there was also the Compute Resource Consolidation Pattern here. So this was another episode that got released, another of the Architecting for the Cloud One Pattern at a Time series. That one I did live. The past few videos I've recorded have been live, I think, or at least the last few vlogs. This one is not. And I'm noticing that when I record some of these things live, when I go ahead and maybe schedule these to be released at a certain time and everyone can watch at the same time, I'm not seeing as many views as when I go ahead and just release the content at a normal period of time and people can watch when they want. So I am moving back to the kind of the way that I'm used to recording and delivering the content here. So again, feedback's appreciated. If there's something you prefer, you don't like, for example, just let me know, because it really does get listened to and helps shape what I do with the content there. But as I say, another episode in the Architecting for the Cloud One Pattern at a Time there, all focused around the Compute Resource Consolidation Pattern, really focusing on how you can control your costs from a compute perspective there. Next up, outside of Cloud with Chris, last week we had our first session for Azure Thames Valley. Went really well, so a big shout out and a big kudos to Matthew Bradley. Thank you so much for being our first speaker, launching us back again. It was a great session, really interesting session, all about Azure storage. I think you had a great title and a great blurb, and lived up to the blurb as well, so thank you again for delivering that. do have a recording of that. It will be up soon. Actually, I think we're going to be hosting it on this channel as well. So again, that's just a bit more content if you're a Cloud with Chris subscriber. And if you're an Azure Thames Valley person as well, you're welcome to, of course, digest all the content that I'm pushing out with Cloud with Chris as well. But it was just an easy way for us to get that online. Next session we've got coming up is March the 16th, so every third Tuesday of the month is when we're targeting, and it's not announced yet, but on April the 20th we should be having Sarah Lean joining us as well, so that's going to be a very, very good session, which I'm very looking forward to. So we're just finalising some of the content around that, or at least the blurb and the kind of speaker banner and all those things, so as soon as those are done, then it will be announced there. So you've got the inside scoop right here, folks. And then, of course, as well as the Azure Thames Valley side of things, also had another session last week. I've teased it for a little while that I was going to be working with JonnyChipz, John Lunn, fellow Welshman, and it's released. It's released on Friday, and that is where John and I had in conversation with JonnyChipz, and really enjoyed the discussion. We talked about things relating from Microsoft Learn all the way to Azure Docs, to Azure architecture patterns, all the way through to things like GitHub, DevOps principles, etc. Really enjoyed it, so thank you so much for having me. Thank you for inviting me along. I very much do want to get you as a guest, reciprocating back. I'd love to have you on and talk about some of your experiences, so we will absolutely make that happen. So thank you again, John. Really appreciated that one. Good. And there are, of course, a number of things coming up as well. So, for example, I'll be speaking at the Welsh Azure User Group at some point in March. This week, for example, I am going to be on one of the Squared Up webinars on Thursday, so check that one out if you haven't already done so. I've mentioned it a few times, so hopefully you're aware by now. What else is coming up? .NET Limerick is coming up in March, and I think I might be speaking at DevOps Knots, or a similar user group at least, working with Liam Gulliver, and I've also spoken with Pete Gallagher as well, getting some sessions maybe a bit further out as well. So busy few months, and really looking forward to some of the sessions coming up. One of the things that I am looking at doing potentially is getting a section on the Cloud with Chris website where I list the events that have either happened or coming up, so it'll just be another content stream there as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, let me know. Even the things like the guest appearances, I'm thinking about how I can link back to some of the content and some of the other folks that I've been working with as well, so do let me know, because that's something I am pondering over at the moment there. So I think that's it in terms of updates. Nothing that can't wait for another week at least. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Azure news this week. So it's fairly light compared to some of the other weeks on the Azure blog post side of things at least. There's some news about Azure Firewall Premium now being in preview. There was a blog post about Azure Arc. There was a recap about Azure Automation and 2020, what happened there, as well as then some evolution of Azure Front Door as well. So if we go ahead and move on here, Azure Firewall Premium is now in preview. So what does that mean? Well, things like TLS inspection, IDPS, web categories, URL filtering is available inside of this SKU. It's quite a lot to digest actually in that blog post. I wouldn't do it justice by summarizing here. So I think it's a good update, one to be keeping on your radar, and one to go and take a look at actually in the Azure blogs there. Next up is Azure Automation 2020 recap, as we just mentioned. And there was a whole ton of stuff which is available there. Integration with GitHub, for example, private link with update management, for example. There's DSC support announced for Oracle 6.7 and Ubuntu 18.04. Number of pieces around hybrid runbook workers. Number of things around DNS, for example, and plenty more. And I think I am one, as you know, who likes to go ahead and automate some of those monotonous pieces. And Azure Automate, I think, is a great tool in the toolbox, let's say, to go ahead and help you go and do that. So go ahead, take a look at that, because you may have missed something last year, and it's good to just keep up to date on what some of those updates were. And then the final blog post I wanted to go and look at here was the Azure Front Door one. This has been something that has been on my radar for a little while, and actually I'm glad to see that it's now announced and in this form of a preview here. There's been some enhancements to Azure Front Door and some new capabilities. So they're simplifying that experience. They're making it a bit clearer on the capabilities of Front Door versus CDN and Web Application Firewall. There's a new portal experience. There's enhancements to how you manage your TLS certificates, and even, which I think is an absolutely huge one, the ability to go ahead and have a private origin. So you're able to go and use things like private link inside of Azure Front Door now. So thinking about those backends you might be working with, huge update there, and I'm really, really pleased about that. I think that's going to open quite a lot of scenarios there, actually. So again, go ahead and take a look at that one. There's quite a lot to go and digest there as well, including even simplified pricing as well. Now, what else? Let's go ahead and jump across to the Azure Updates page. So a number of updates. I'll rattle through these and we'll dive into a few that stood out in particular. Azure Firewall Premium is now in public preview, as we spoke about earlier. This next one is a huge one. Azure Role-Based Access Control for Azure Key Vault Data Plane Authorization is now GA. So you don't have to just rely on access policies anymore. You now have role-based access support generally available. Really great update there. Automatic Azure VM extension upgrade capabilities now in public preview. US Gov Virginia availability zones now GA. .NET Core support for analysis service client libraries is GA. Azure IoT Edge 1.1 is GA. Machine learning on Azure SQL Managed Instance now available. Log replay service for Azure SQL Managed Instance in public preview. More ways to use composite indexes in Azure Cosmos DB now GA. API management diagnostics now available in public preview. Additional IOPS features for MySQL Flexible Server in preview. Now let's go to the first page. New disk bursting metrics. Cross-region restore of Azure VMs now generally available. Public preview of App Insights auto-instrumentation for .NET 5 app services. App Insights availability troubleshooting report for URL tests. GA of App Insights synthetic monitoring SLA report template. Public preview of App Insights work item integration for Azure DevOps and GitHub. Azure NetApp Files volume hard quota changes in development. Azure Database for PostgreSQL hyperscale audit logging via PG Audit now in public preview. Additional VMs are available in Azure HD Insights. GA of Azure Machine Learning updates for native terminal. Azure Purview available in public preview in South Central US and Canada Central. We talked about Azure Front Door Standard and Premium in public preview. GA of Azure Red Hat OpenShift support for OpenShift 4.6. Azure Sphere OS version 21.02 available for evaluation. Datadog integration with Azure Public Preview. GA of support for Java Message Service 2.0 API on Azure Service Bus Premium, and then a series of updates relating to Front Door again, email one-time passcode authentication on by default starting October 2021, and finally Azure Image Builder Service now generally available. I need to take a breath after all that, because that is a lot of updates in just 1 week there, so we'll jump into a few that I thought were particularly interesting. First off, we have the Azure Role-Based Access Control for Azure Key Vault Data Plane. So if you've used Key Vault, you'll know that you had access policies previously, and access policies are great. They do what they need to do, but they were at the vault level. And now what happens with Role-Based Access Control is you can control that on the granularity of an individual secret, an individual key, an individual certificate. So this is a huge update. This is a huge announcement, and I'm really, really pleased about this one. Actually, I've had a few customers over the recent months that I've been talking with this about, and really pleased to see this one come in. Next up then, we have got the more ways to use composite indexes in Azure Cosmos DB. And I think the important thing about Cosmos DB that I commonly hear is people saying how expensive it is. I think typically it's expensive if your data model isn't quite right. So you might need to be increasing the number of RUs that you're using because you haven't quite optimized your kind of partition keys, for example, and how you've designed your data store there. So this announcement is giving us even more ways that we can use composite indexes. So again, more ways that we can potentially consider optimizing those Cosmos DB containers there. So take a look at that one. Cross-region restore of Azure VMs now GA, I think is a great one. Again, when we think about backup HADR as a story there. There is a public preview of App Insights work item integration for Azure DevOps and GitHub. So again, thinking about that end-to-end scenario of how to go ahead and take some kind of issue happening in a live environment, log it in your work item tracking system, so then you can go ahead and work on that in the next sprint. That again is some nice integration that is now available there. Azure Front Door Standard and Premium that we talked about previously, as well as this one and this one. So we'll skip through these. They were all front door related there. Email one-time passcode authentication on by default starting October 2021. So starting October 31st, 2021, Azure AD email one-time passcode authentication will become the default method for inviting accounts and tenants for B2B collaboration scenarios. At this point in time, Microsoft will no longer allow redemption of invitations using unmanaged Azure Active Directory accounts. So again, that's quite an important change just to be aware of, and if you work in the identity space, might just be worth you familiarizing yourself with that one coming up. And then finally, Azure Image Builder Service is now generally available. So again, when we think about the DevOps scenarios, I think a lot of time there's a lot of focus on platform as a service, but you can do, of course, DevOps scenarios with the classic infrastructure scenarios as well. And I think a good way of doing that is thinking about how you ship your virtual machines. I've seen some people go ahead and script the machines from the base level up, for example. I've seen some people go ahead and use images, and I think Azure Image Builder Service is one of those tools to go and help you do that. Number of updates there. Create and customize secure and compliant VM images and distribute them in a nice way. Patching existing custom images, Azure DevOps integration, Azure integration in Azure with VNet connectivity, and more. So I think, again, a number of great announcements there as part of that being now generally available. So let's move on then to the Azure DevOps blog. A few updates here. First off, there is a new series cooking off here with, I think it was Stephen Rusky, if I remember correctly, yes, and Abel Wang. And what they're doing is they're talking about on-prem to the cloud and how to start migrating across some of your applications. And they start talking about, defining your success criteria, looking at things like your dependencies, being able to use something like application insights and how you can go and use that to instrument your application and gather data so you can start planning your moves. So if you're starting on that journey, this is a nice article, video to go ahead and take a look at. Then we've got another update on the auditing side of things with Azure DevOps. There's 2 new event types now available in auditing logs: billing, setup, and management events, as well as personal access tokens and SSH key management events. And then there's some additional pieces coming soon as well. So they're also looking at building in successful web sign-in attempts and token access events generated during the usage of a PAT and SSH key. So again, good to see that additional focus on the audit logs and the auditing capabilities of Azure DevOps there. Now, this next one I was a little sad to read, actually, but it makes complete sense in my mind. There are some changes happening in the Azure Pipelines grant for public projects. So you'll be familiar, for example, that public projects had a number of great advantages for them, because typically those public projects would be used for open source projects. And, there's open source projects. Azure DevOps team wants to go ahead and facilitate and give back to the community was the intent, I think, there from the initial launch of that. But that's been going on since, I think, about September 2018, and they now need to stop that from happening, actually. And the reason for that, if you think about it in a different way, that is free compute that they are operating there, which means when someone says something is free, that's potentially going to be abused a little bit there. What they've seen, actually, is it's been abused by crypto mining in particular, and they've spent a lot of time and energy trying to tackle that and combat against that, but it's been particularly problematic over recent months from reading this article. and unfortunately they are now going to be removing that offer by default. So when you create a brand new public project, you won't be able to run pipelines now. If you are already using it though, it does say that you should still be able to continue using that, and they are working on a process to go and make sure that that can come back in some form, I guess. They haven't quite detailed how that's going to work yet, but completely understands what they're combating against there. It's just unfortunate there that they're opportunists taking advantage of that. So just be aware and mindful of that. And that, I think, is everything that I wanted to update on in this particular session. So we're just around the 25-minute mark there. So I think otherwise there is not a lot else to say other than this week is going to be another busy week. Of course, I mentioned about the Squared Up webinar on Thursday, so please do come along, take a look and listen in at that. We've got a great session coming up on Friday with Karim Fahmy, looking at an introduction to landing zones, for example, as well. And I'll be writing another blog post, and I'm hoping this week that I'll start the kind of GitHub and GPG key signing blog post I've mentioned a couple of times. Been inspired by a few colleagues around this. Has been something I've been using these keys for quite a while, but getting my YubiKey using to authenticate and allow me to use those keys is something I've been working on. Had a few challenges with that, as I mentioned in the JonnyChipz recording, so that's something I'm going to be writing a bit of a series around coming up, so I think I'll start that one this week. So that is it for this week. So thank you very much for watching. Hope the update has been useful. Feedback is appreciated as always. And until the next time, all I have to say is thank you for watching and bye for now.